It started off that we've got like a little group of local partners that meet in Carlton every kind of like 4 to 6 weeks. And one of the partners, Susie Layton from Age Concern, really wanted to relaunch their age-friendly Carlton scheme that they'd had before the pandemic. So thinking about how to make Carlton a safe place for local residents to go to. So in terms of like trying to work out what we were going to do with that, we thought it's really good if we actually go out and talk to local residents and find out what helps them to get out and what the barriers are to them getting out. So what we did was we then got 3 kind of like focus groups of local residents together to chat to them about that. So one of the groups came from the Age Concern attendees. Another group was a group of residents that we already knew in a local housing scheme. And another one was a group of people that come to an exercise class. So we went and chatted to them. Now, what was great was because we already knew them, we had a really nice conversation. So they felt really comfortable about telling us, like what worked and what was a bit more difficult for them. And out of those conversations, we got a number of different things, but 2 of the things were, we want to know where we can sit down. If we're going out, we want to know if we can sit down and have a bit of a breather. And we also want to know where the toilets are. Then we thought, okay, so that's is what is preventing them from getting out and about a bit more. What would it be like if we could actually find out where those benches and toilets are, and that might help them to get out a bit more? So that's where the idea of doing this bench mapping project came from. And then what we thought was quite good if we could actually get some of those residents to find out themselves. So it's a way of them getting more active by going and looking. But also they've kind of got a bit more ownership of the project. So again, we went to groups of people that we already knew. So the Age Concern guys were going out on a sponsored walk, so they had a bit of a treasure hunt looking for the benches and the toilets while they were doing that. We had a group of people from a local housing scheme going out and doing the same thing, a local walking group, a running group. But then the momentum was going. I couldn't go anywhere in Carlton without people popping up and saying, oh, I spotted this bench, or these are where the toilets are. So then we found that in other meetings that we were going to, people were saying, oh, I can help with that because I walk my dog around this park, or I pick up litter around this recreation ground. So they wanted to get involved. So the word was spreading in Carlton, and more residents are wanting to get involved. So what happened then was people would go out, and if they found a bench, they'd take a photo of it, and then they also logged it, the exact location, using the What 3 Words app. And then they filled in an online form that Active Knots had developed and sent that information through, which I think went to a spreadsheet, very clever spreadsheet, which then logged all of those positions on an online Google map. Now, obviously, some people were a little bit anxious about using that technology, so what they would do is take a photo of the bench and just email me or just tell me about where they'd seen it, so the road it was near or a particular shop. So we got all of this information in, and then we developed an illustration of the map of Carlton with all of those benches and maps and defibrillators and car parks on it. So great big map, and then we took it out to community events to show residents and say, this is what we found. Are there any more benches, maps, defibrillators, car parks that we've missed? And that was great. So we went to a health and wellbeing event. We went to the launch of the Carlton Community Hub, and people found it really interesting. They wanted to kind of look to see where they were. We had a counsellor come and say, there's a bit of a gap here, and then we could talk about what we were doing. So that was a really lovely way of sense checking what we'd done, finding more information, and then kind of getting the message out there that this is what we were doing. So we used all that information, and then we produced a little leaflet which opens out, and then you can see the map of Carlton where all the amenities are. We've got some fun facts on the back, where all the green spaces are, where the skate park is, where the parks are, where the cemetery is, where the bus routes are. Again, really useful information. Scan the QR code and you can get through to the online version. So some people obviously live by their phones. It's really good to be able to do that rather than having paper. A lot of people really like the paper. They like being able to open it out and see where they go. So we sent it out online to lots of the local partners, so to social prescribing link workers, to adult social care, to people that are running the various community venues, so the Carlton Community Hub, Age Concern, the local church groups. And then we sent out paper copies as well, so distributed them at the library, at the doctor's surgeries. And then actually went into some of those places, and this was quite interesting, because although they got some of them up on a display board, some people hadn't actually seen it. But when I went in and kind of like opened it out and started talking to them, they could say, oh, look, I could actually walk out here, couldn't I? And then I could sit on that bench. And then I could come back here and I could go to the loo if I needed to. So it was quite good then being able to see on that piece of paper what they could do. So these are out there. We're getting quite good feedback on them, and people are really seeing how they can be used, particularly actually those social prescribing link workers who are trying to encourage people to get out, just to take that first step out the door. And actually, as a result of some of the conversations that we've had with residents, they're saying, oh, maybe we could like have a little walk. And so we're now thinking of having a leaflet like this called 5 Easy Walks around Carlton, so a walk route. And the idea would be that it would go from a community venue, so it's somewhere they can meet that's warm and safe and go to the toilet if they needed to. Then they could go for a little walk, and then they've got somewhere to come back to afterwards. So it wouldn't necessarily be a walking group, but it would just be walking routes. And we've also been asked to use this information in funding bids for developing parks. And we've also been asked by the council to find out where the gaps are in the benches, so that if they do get some money donations, maybe from people, they know where they could actually put a new bench.
And we're really fortunate that we had the Carlton Community Connector that could actually then take that idea and turn it into a reality, obviously with the support of partners, but having somebody that was able to essentially do all of that legwork, going around, looking at benches, setting up focus groups to check and challenge whether we've got the right benches in the right places, to make sure that we had the resident voice. That all needed to be pulled together and coordinated by an individual, and we were really, fortunate that we had the Community Connector in Carlton that was able to do that. I think without that role, it would have taken us a lot longer to get to this point. If we were reliant on partner organisations doing their bit, I think it would have taken us a lot longer to get to where we are. So I think you do need to have somebody that has an awareness around technology and being able to utilise things like Google Maps or What 3 Words, and then being able to produce a map by using that as a tool. So it's probably fair to say that it might be a bit clunky for somebody that doesn't have experience in technology, and quite time consuming. And you would also need to make sure that you've got a person or people that are prepared to do that kind of work on the ground and go around taking photos of benches. So we've developed a process that took quite a bit of time, but is something that could be replicated in other areas quite easily now, providing that you have got that infrastructure around, whether it be a community connector or that type of role, or a lead organisation that are willing and prepared to do that. But I think it's also important to mention that the bench map is a great tangible product, but that isn't necessarily what might be appropriate for all communities. For Carlton, we were working with that older age cohort, and it seemed to fit quite nicely with what we were trying to achieve. We've had really good feedback from the hard copy of the leaflet. People like those printouts, like to be able to look at something. It's been very well received, particularly within that older population. But actually, if that's not a group that you're looking to target, it might be that there's something else out there that's more appropriate and more suitable for that community. So I think I would say, rather than perhaps getting caught up on the end product, it's probably more about the process and kind of what it is that you're trying to achieve at the end of that process, and that's the key thing really, and where that engagement is the most important part. The bench mapping is that product, nice product at the end of it, but actually I wouldn't focus in on that. I would focus in on the development and the process to get to that.
What I think has been really nice about this project is that we didn't go into it thinking we are going to produce a product. The idea actually came from local residents. There was a need that was identified, there was a gap there. And so we followed up on that. I think the other thing that really worked nicely was that residents were involved in helping to produce this. Individual residents, but also the groups, the local partners. And everyone's got quite excited about it. So we have ended up with a product which is lovely, which is now helping people. But we've really got this strong relationship now between the partners at getting something together, working together on something, and producing something that's going to help the local residents. And the local residents are quite excited about being part of it. And I think what we've seen since doing that is that they're now supporting each other on other things, other projects, other events that are happening in the area.